Hi guys, so I'm just gonna go through this with you. This is the 2010 sample answer, okay? So our first one is, how does Cordelia upset her father at the beginning of the play? So you can see for this one you need a really good knowledge of Act 1, Scene 1. So y- so at the start of King Lear, Cordelia upsets her father by refusing to take part in the love test. So that's essentially what she does. But for 10 marks, you need to explain that in a lot more detail. And also, you could then talk about what happens because of her refusing to become involved with that love test. And that's what they do here. So King Lear plans to divide his kingdom amongst his three daughters, Goneril, Regan and Cordelia. Lear says that he will give the largest portion of his land to the daughter who shows him the most love. Goneril and Regan both compete for this by falsely flattering their father. However, Cordelia refuses to do likewise. So that's what happens. And then you go into a little bit more depth. As an honourable and honest young woman, Cordelia is uncomfortable with the love test. She knows that her love is so great that she cannot truly express it in words. I'm sure my love's more ponderous than my tongue. When Lear asks Cordelia to speak, her initial reply is nothing. She then tells her father, I cannot heave my heart into my mouth. I love your majesty according to my bond, no more nor less. Cordelia is telling Lear that she cannot articulate the true depth of her love and that she loves her father like a dutiful daughter should. However, because Lear is so proud and arrogant, he misinterprets her words, thinking that she does not love him at all. He becomes enraged and disowns her, refusing to give her any dowry. I think that Cordelia is a much better woman than her sisters. She's honest to Lear and remains calm when he loses his temper. I admire the way she stands up for herself, insisting that Lear explain that she has no vicious blot or flaw in her character. However, I think she was a little too stubborn. Although she's not responsible for King Lear's folly and fiery temper, she could have shown a little more compassion for an elderly man. So that shows you a full 10 mark, fully explained question. I'm not going to read through each one of these because you know how to read yourselves, guys. Um, but the second one, I will go through each one. Do you think that King Lear was wise to banish Kent? Explain your answer. So obviously he's not wise to banish Kent. We know, so why not? Um, Kent is extremely loyal to Lear. We see what happens. So explain what happens and why he banishes him, because all Kent is doing is standing up for Cordelia. So he sees that Regan and Goneril's proclamations of love mean nothing. And he can see also that Cordelia truly loves him. So it was completely unjust of Lear to banish Kent. Um, and he doesn't understand that, Lear doesn't seem to understand that Kent is working from a place of love. He's not trying to undermine Lear's authority. He just wants him to see the truth. So he's clearly making a big mistake, and there's lots of reasons why there. Just make sure you have a read through and highlight or write down any of the quotes that you think you might use again. Okay, so you can see the length of answer for 10 marks. It's considerable length, really. Do you like Edmund? He's intriguing, but I wouldn't say you might like him, maybe. So that's what this person has gone for. I do not like Edmund, as he's a manipulative and evil character. However, I must admit that Edmund's intelligence and drive make him fascinating to watch on stage. And then you explain why. So the way that he treats Gloucester, the way that he treats Edgar, and what he does. So you need to have a good knowledge of the play. What he does are evil. And particularly, I suppose, allowing Gloucester to have his eyes gouged out when he betrays him to Cornwall. Um, and that's there too. Um, and there are good quotes for it. He also exploits Goneril and Regan. He's not really interested in either of them, but he is considering his options because ultimately what he wants is power. So he's willing to use them both, um, but isn't doesn't seem to be really sexually attracted to either of them. And that's when he says, which of them shall I take? Both, one, neither. So all he really wants to do is make sure that he gains from that situation. Now our last one, so there are you've got three 30-mark questions, okay, for your longer questions. So just like your poetry, you've got three 10 marks. And then you've got a longer one, but your poetry is only 20 marks, the longer one. This one is 30 marks. So you're expected to write more. Okay. So for 30 marks, you'd want to be hitting two A4 pages there. Now, this one is much longer because it is a sample answer. Like if you're to write that out, it'll probably be 2.5 pages. Um, but it gives you an idea of what you should be writing. Always have an introduction, always have a conclusion. Okay. So um, sorry, answer one of the following, but this is the sample answer. The other two are there. I've attached the full question as well, so you can have a look at the other two because this one mightn't be the one that you would have chosen on the day. So, sisters, shame of ladies. This is Cordelia's comment on her sisters, Goneril and Regan. Describe the character and conduct of the two sisters. Support your answer with reference to the play. So, quite a nice question because really all it's asking you to do is explain what they do in the play and say what you think about what they do. Okay, so what do they do? What do you think about that? But you need to have, your act one, scene one is where they start off with their flattery. Okay. So both, let's have a look, really short little intro. Okay. Sort of describing the type of characters that they are. Your first paragraph there is about the love test and how they use empty flattery. And where Cordelia points out that they are, that they're saying something but they don't mean it. Their glib and oily art is that smooth talking. Um, then we can see straight away that as soon as they have his power, that they start to disrespect Lear. So Goneril tells Oswald to treat Lear rudely. She doesn't want Lear and all of his retinue in the house, in her castle, in her palace. Um, Oswald, Regan insults Lear, encouraging Cornwall to place Lear's servant Kent in disguise in the stocks. So that's after he has an altercation with Oswald. Goneril and Regan reduce Lear's train of knights from 100 to 1, leaving Lear with no entourage and therefore no real power at all. They put him out into the storm. The way that they treat Gloucester is horrific. Pluck out his eyes, out vile jelly. Remember those quotes. They seem to delight in his torture. And Regan orders him out of the castle. Tells Cornwall to order him out of the castle and tells him to let him smell his way to Dover. Particularly vicious. So we can see here that there's really nothing likable about them. Then I suppose as soon as they gain power, they start to be suspicious of one another. Um, that comes to the fore when they both try to vie for Edmund's affections. They're jealous of one another. Regan tries to open the letter, Goneril's letter to Edmund. And then, of course, later we have Goneril, who's also jealous of Regan, and worried about her affections for Edmund, so she poisons her. So ultimately, their united front at the start of the play is very temporary. They're out for themselves. They want to get the most power, and in this instance, they want to get the man for themselves, and they'll do whatever they can. After Goneril's plot against Albany is made known, Goneril stabs herself and dies. So they both end up dead in the tragedy. And we have there, I think, that she would rather die than face the consequences of her own villainy. Like her sister, she never repents for any of the vile things that she does throughout the play. So even Edmund repents in some way. The two sisters don't. So Shakespeare emphasizes Goneril and Regan's inhumanity by using animal imagery to describe them throughout, and that happens throughout the play. Different people describe them in terms of their wolfish visage, so the fact that they look like wolves, called pelican daughters. sharper than a serpent's tooth. Some of those quotes are there, and it might be handy to have one or two of them, okay? Gloucester also describes his daughters in animalistic terms. So we can see that both women are that subscribe to the law of the jungle, which is to eat or be eaten, essentially. And they are despicable characters throughout the play. They don't have a turning point. They don't redeem themselves in any way. So hopefully that will help you. So please make sure you read through this carefully before you go to do the 2016 question, and I'll talk you through that one in another video.